For centuries, he has been remembered by a name he never used, a name that traveled through time, through books, paintings, plays, and popular imagination until it became almost inseparable from his identity. Edward of Woodstock is known to us today as the Black Prince, and yet the question that quietly unsettles everything we think we know about him is a simple one. If he was never called that during his lifetime, who decided to give him that name and why? This is the channel for Lost Records, and today we're here to understand this story. Edward was born in 1330 into a world shaped by war. He was the eldest son of King Edward III of England, and from the very beginning, his life followed a carefully constructed path. He was not raised merely as an heir, but as a future ruler, forged for conflict. From childhood, titles, responsibilities, and authority were placed upon him. He was educated to govern, to command, and above all, to fight. The 100 Years' War was already casting its long shadow over Europe, and Edward grew up knowing that peace was never going to define his life. Still in his early teens, Edward began accompanying his father on military campaigns. At just 16, he was knighted and sent directly into the brutal reality of medieval warfare. It was here that his reputation began to take shape. At the Battle of Crécy and later at Poitiers, Edward proved himself not simply brave, but strategically formidable. At Poitiers, against all expectations, the English forces prevailed, and the King of France himself was captured. From that moment on, Edward's name carried weight across Europe, a name spoken with admiration by allies and fear by enemies. But military triumph rarely comes without consequence. Victory leaves scars, and Edward's career was no exception. When he assumed control over Aquitaine, his rule became deeply unpopular. Heavy taxation, extravagant spending, and a rigid, often uncompromising manner alienated local populations. Rebellions followed. Then came Limoges, a campaign later associated with reports of severe destruction and alleged massacres. Historians continue to debate the accuracy of these accounts, but regardless of where the truth lies, such stories contributed powerfully to the darker image that began to surround him. And yet, even this reputation does not explain the name by which he would be remembered. Throughout Edward's entire life, there is no reliable contemporary source that refers to him as the Black Prince. Not in royal records, not in chronicles, not in correspondence. Edward died in 1376, weakened by illness, never having worn the crown he was destined for. And then, nothing. For nearly 170 years, the name simply does not appear. The title Black Prince only begins to surface clearly in the 16th century, during the Tudor period. Writers and scholars of that era refer to Edward by this name as if it were already familiar, already accepted. They offer no explanation, no origin story. They simply assume the audience knows, which raises an unsettling possibility. Either earlier references once existed and were lost to time, or the name itself was born later, shaped by memory rather than fact. Over the centuries, two explanations gained popularity. One claims that Edward wore black armor and that his appearance inspired the name. The other suggests that black referred not to color, but to character, to his feared conduct in war, his reputation for severity, the terror associated with his campaigns. The difficulty is that neither theory is supported by medieval sources. They appear again and again, repeated by later writers who relied on one another rather than on contemporary evidence. What seems far more likely is something far more revealing. History itself was rewritten. Writers and dramatists, most notably William Shakespeare, helped fix Edward's image in the cultural imagination, a warrior likened to the gods of war, a figure of tragedy and devastation. Once embedded in literature, the name took on a life of its own. It passed from stage to page, from page to painting, until the Black Prince no longer needed an explanation. He had become legend. Today, Edward's tomb and Canterbury Cathedral still bears symbols of power: dark armor, heraldic shields, the visual language of authority. They reinforce the myth. Yet the man behind the name remains elusive. We know he was a brilliant commander. We know he struggled as a ruler. We know he was both admired and feared. What we do not know is when, how, or why he truly became the Black Prince. And perhaps that is the most important lesson his story offers us. Names that survive the centuries do not always preserve truth. Sometimes they preserve stories, repeated, reshaped, and remembered until they feel inevitable. Edward of Woodstock was a prince, a soldier, and a product of his time. The Black Prince, however, may well be a creation of history itself, dark, compelling, and impossible to erase. So, when we look back at the past, we might ask ourselves not only what really happened, but how the stories we choose to tell have shaped everything we think we know. If you enjoy uncovering forgotten histories and questioning the records we inherit, make sure to follow the channel and join us for the stories still waiting to be told. More lost records are on the way. Until next time, take care and cheers.